A long time ago, on a comics page far, far away. Greetings and welcome to May the Panel Be With You, the Star Wars comic book show brought to you by the Punch Up Entertainment Network. I am your humble host, Mike Gargoni, and joining me, as always, it's the irrigated, overly polluted lake to my man contemplating suicide. It's John Campbell.
Hello, everybody. Man, and boy, does that set you up for the rip-roaring tale we've got for you today.
This is such a bummer of an issue, John.
It is. This issue is nuts. And is so. It's crazy to me. This is the same creative team we normally get, because all of a sudden it felt like some real goth emo guys took over. This is just It feels like a different comic.
Yeah, absolutely. We are, of course, covering, still in the 70s, we are covering Star Wars number 29 from the original Marvel Comics Group run. This issue originally came out in November of 1979.
Yep.
It, like you said, it is basically the same creative team as we've had for a while now. We have Archie Goodwin as our writer, Carmine Infantino as our primary artists. We got Bob Wyacek on color on inks. We've got John Costanza on letters, Glennis Ween on colors, and a distant shooter off in the woods looking for a bear to hunt. I don't know where I was going with that metaphor.
Oh, he was always just taking it. He's like, "Sorry guys, I have to leave this meeting to go hunt some bears."
There's one thing we know about Jim Shooter, avid hunter.
I feel like we always end up making Jim Shooter like this kind of guy. But if you ever see interviews with him, he has a fairly kind of dull sort of voice like this, Jim Shooter. Yeah, he's not as advertised, I will say. When you see him, you're like, oh, right. Like, you hear about the psycho that was Jim Shooter who just ran that company almost into the ground. And then you see him, and he goes like, I just thought it'd be a good idea if all the superheroes came together. And, it's like, oh, yeah.
Yeah, I always think of him as like, what if Stan Lee was turned up to 11 and evil, but that's never what he actually was. It's just what he was on paper.
Right, exactly. Like that those were the actions of him, but in actuality you're like, "Oh right, no, yeah, he's like a boring guy in a suit because that would have been the CEO of the company." Like, right. Yeah, okay, that makes sense. Anyway, here it is, folks. We are still Adventures Beyond, the greatest space fantasy film of all. I'm so curious what that header is going to change to once it becomes two films.
Well,
Adventures Beyond, the greatest space fantasy films of all?
Let's get to this cover because it is promising something that it will kind of deliver on, but
yes, I mean they're not. It's not total false advertising, but
okay,
yeah,
because right off the bat we've got what's this? Valance, that robot bounty hunter who has been having an existential crisis over the last few issues.
You mean who randomly shifted character the last time we saw him?
And then Darth Vader, a person who's only just now becoming a character in this book.
I know, Darth Vader has been such on the fringes of this book for so long. And then all of a sudden it's like, here it is, folks, the Vader issue. And there's some cool Vader stuff in here, but then there's also some, what?
Vader so here's the thing with Vader that... we were going to need to address at some point in this comic, and now's a good enough time as any, because I think this issue exemplifies it pretty well. Yes. Vader is a character that it is extremely difficult to make as your central protagonist, because the more you peel back the layers of Vader, the less impactful he can be at times.
Yes. Well, I think that's true for a lot of great villains, right? Like, the more you spend time with the villain of a piece, it's why I'm always hesitant to pick up any comic about like the great villains or whatever. Like if somebody gets their own title, and of course there are ones that work, obviously, but like it's always sort of a thing where you're just going like, yeah, but like they have to remain the driving. So, because we've talked about before, villains are really the people who like start a story, but they don't often finish said story. So that's where it's sort of like a weird thing where you kind of want them to be somewhat mysterious.
Well, and here's how I think a lot of the modern day Vader comics have succeeded, and one where this particular issue stumbles a little bit is do not give us Darth Vader interiority. It
No,
really hurts the character a lot of time. Now,
absolutely.
have there been books that have done it successfully? Yes, absolutely, because you
Yeah.
have like issues of the more recent Marvel Vader book where like we're getting into like Vader's dreamscape and like him delving into his own psyche, but that's represented visually. It's not giving us blocks of text describing what he's thinking.
Well, the other thing, of course, that's huge difference here is we know a lot of Vader's backstory now, of course, like
This
all
is
of it.
true.
And here they are attempting to flesh out a character who has almost no characteristics at this point beyond just being the big evil guy in dark armor with powers and such.
Correct.
Like
And we
just
get
coming
a
off of that
big
first movie.
yeah. No, just off that first movie, we get a big bad evil guy in dark armor who's got a lightsaber. He had some relationship with Obi-Wan Kenobi, and other than that, we just know he's a big honking badass, and that's pretty much it.
Yeah. And there's I always point people towards these interviews from the around the time, or I don't know if they're interviews, but they're like recordings of Lucas, brainstorming, and he is just going like, well, Darth Vader's sort of a throwaway villain, kind of just there to be an intimidation factor, and he'll die off pretty quick. And he was, and it's always that thing too, where George didn't have a plan for this. So Vader really was meant to just be this physical, imposing force.
Yeah.
So yeah, I was reading through this comic last night. I'm going like I'm looking for anything that is trying to pin this character down like what is the perception of him in this comic where there's just the one movie,
Right.
and they're still pretty vague, obviously.
This comic doesn't know because Lucas didn't know at this point, or he might have at this point, as of this comic's writing and publication,
Knew at
that
the very
Darth Vader
least-
is Luke Skywalker's dad.
Correct, and there's nothing to roll that in, nor do I expect that. But like, but the other thing that I kept waiting for in this is, of course, we have Valance, the self-hating cyborg, fighting another cyborg, except they don't know he's a cyborg, the writers of it.
Right. That's like, in retrospect, this conflict seems like, oh, there's a duality here. The writers of this book don't know about that.
Oh, I know, and I was no, and of course they don't. Like, but
Yeah.
it's so crazy to me that yes, what are Vader's feelings about being a cyborg? Oh, well, he's not one really at this point. What is he at all? We don't even know if he's a man. Like,
We'll discuss it when we get to the end of this issue, but the writers make some suppositions about certain things, and we'll get there.
I want to,
but
but I want to talk about this cover very briefly. Number one, the outfit that Valance is wearing, that's some hot pink on him.
Look, he got a brief subscription to what was that Marvel NFL book that they did for a while?
NFL Superstar, I want to say it was something.
Yeah. He saw their costumes and was like, "Get me some of that."
My dad bought me every issue of that, going, "Finally, I can get the boy into sports."
Yeah, that's not how that works.
It didn't work at all. But the other thing is, Infantino's art always fascinating. What he chooses to emphasize. Valance has got some junk in the trunk, pal. Look at that thing.
I would say that his eye and arm aren't the only thing those cybernetics are enhancing. That's all I'm gonna say.
Look at those buns.
He's got some buns on. I'm also. This is a constant problem in comics of this era, but just the fact that there's zero seam between his boot and his pant, and it's just a color change and a line.
Yep.
Bugs me.
That's classic. Yeah. Well, especially for how detailed, like in the cover work on this is much more detailed than the actual art inside the book.
Sure.
And so all the shadowing, all the like detail, look at like the heel of the boot and stuff like that. And then for that to just be kind of nebulous, yeah, it really makes it even more so. Also, it appears Vader's wearing more armor than, I mean, he's always wearing armor, but the way it's drawn looks like look at like his leg that's closest to us. It looks like Thor's armor.
Yeah, they look like greaves is what those are called, like the big leg
Mm.
armor.
That's it exactly is what I'm talking about. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you're just like, that's not what Vader looks like.
Yeah, like Vader is always described as this like armored dark individual, but like when you really look at his costume, like none of it's most of it's not like hard plating. You've got the
No.
shoulder pads and the helmet and like the chest plate. And other than
Mhm.
that, he's like got a pretty flexible suit
Yeah,
going on.
because like the stormtroopers wear armor, and like
Yeah.
yeah, that's not what Vader. Oh, and speaking of stormtroopers, let's open this up because uh, the workaday stormtroopers are my favorite part of this. Blue collar, just punching the clock, stormtroopers.
We, no matter what the medium is, will always love a stormtrooper who is treating it like it's the day to day.
Ah, jeez, man.
Whether it's
I got
these
one.
guys or those two chuckles that just like were walking down the hallway, heard Kylo Ren throwing a hissy fit and decided to turn around.
My favorite characters in Force Awakens by far. This when the one guy stopped, the other guy's like, mm-mm, mm-mm, mm-mm. Yeah. This, so yeah, here we have our workaday stormtroopers, and talk about another. This is an Imperial outfit on this guy, but a little bit more form fitting than we're used to.
Yeah, he's kind of like edging towards Matt the radar repair guy here.
Oh yeah, look at that. And the perfect creases in those pants.
Oh yeah.
And then I do want to talk about how these stormtroopers are holding their weapons.
Just like gently, just like look, if you hold them too hard, they'll start to crumble. They're very light model.
I it's so weird. Number one, the completely wrong what the stormtrooper rifles look like.
Oh yeah.
They have just decided, for some reason, Infantino's just decided this is what blasters look like in the comic book Star Wars. They have multiple sights on them.
I would be very curious to see some of Infantino's other work from this time and see what the guns in those look like and whether or
I
not
bet
they're exactly the same.
Because yeah, it does feel like what is this? I'm also trying to figure out what is the sideways sight for.
To sight on the horizon?
I guess
That was me just making up some bullshit just now, so.
I've never seen a gun like that because you don't really need to do that. But
Because
okay,
blasters
okay.
can shoot farther than guns with normal
Yeah, or for when you
bullets.
turn it to look cool
Oh,
sideways.
yeah. No, that's probably it.
There you go. But then I'm still aiming, even though that makes no sense because the gun's gonna kick like that. But whatever.
Yeah, I don't know.
So these guys are apparently squeamish because Darth Vader is torturing a guy in another room, and this guy is going, "Oh, what? Like you've never been around a torture session?"
I love the caption here. They have, but somehow not like these.
Oh man, yeah, we've dished out a couple beatings, but this is a whole other world, man. Um. So also these are no neck stormtroopers. At least particularly the one
Yeah.
on the right there, no neck on that guy at all.
Yeah, no. Infantino's done this a lot where like the stormtrooper armor is like wider and squatter than we're used to seeing. That's just kind of how he rolls.
These are not as well designed. And then here we go. Let's go to the next page, and here it is. Mid torture, Darth Vader, Lord of the Sith.
And his companion Dr. Ball is back.
Yeah, man, Dr. Ball, who now is whatever they've done to this guy, the guy they're torturing appears to be smoking.
Yeah, we never actually see the torture victim.
Yeah.
We are aware that he is a rebel spy of some kind, and that Darth Vader, Lord of the Sith, is in fact torturing him, and he just loves to torture. I love me my torturing.
Lives to torture. Here's a question. Does he? I mean, Darth Vader does a lot of evil stuff. I would say there's a lot of him torturing, or in particular, taking real joy out of it in any of the movies.
I think the only time I've seen in like expanded universe stuff of Darth Vader like taking joy is when he is seeing somebody get their comeuppance about something, even if it's only
Yeah.
perceived comeuppance from his
Yeah.
perspective.
Yes. Uh, no, that's it exactly. It doesn't feel. This is such a weird thing where he's just like, "Hey, come in here, Wormus. Look at the way this guy's skin is flailing, man."
Also, I love the return of Wormus.
Baby. Wormus and him just going, oh, oh.
I wonder if I might be excused, Lord Vader. I seem to have a touch of indigestion.
We turn the page and he's like, "Yes, it would. I would have that seen to Wormus. Most people get indigestion after a meal, not before."
And I guess this page answers your question. Yeah, it is the torture victim who is smoking green here.
Mm-hmm.
You know it's
What
bad
is
when the smoke is green.
What has he done to this guy? Because normally, if Vader wants information out of somebody, he's just gonna force choke a bitch, right?
But this time he wanted to take his time. I mean, on this last page, this phrase from Vader, the ability to resist is always fascinating, eh, Wormus? It varies endlessly from individual to individual. This spy was better at it than average, wouldn't you say?
This Vader has tortured enough spies that he's actually cataloging. This one took a little longer to break than normal. I really had to get medieval on his ass.
He's fucking Count Rugen from Princess Bride. He's just like,
Yes,
please describe the nature of your pain.
Yeah, I'm just like, because to me, some of the scariness of Vader is the not giving a shit, right? Where it's just like, I'm gonna choke this guy and then just be like, all right, I got the information. That was like, there's almost a logic to it where it's like, I will choke him until he gives me the information, and that's what I did. That's what needed to be done. There's no like sadistic joy in it.
Right. I mean, Vader, especially in the post Anakin Skywalker, like fleshing out, has always been more of an engine of destruction than like an actual mustache twirling villain.
Right, and there's a coldness to that is very, once again, that leads to this. You can't get a read on this guy. If he's a cackling madman, he's less threatening to me than it's just the guy who's like, oh, I'll just do whatever's necessary to get the job done. He's the unstoppable force. When he's cutting through the rebel soldiers in Rogue One, he's not going, oh yeah, you're really dead, pal.
Yeah. No, again, like, especially post-Anakin characterization, you're talking about a guy who has had to bury all of his pieces of emotion because he feels like he's burned down his own world for some greater purpose. And then when that greater purpose also dies, all he's left with is the rage and the pain.
Right, and then by the time we get to A New Hope, and especially now that we know him through the story in the prequels, he is a guy who has deadened himself, who is so, divorced himself from humanity that, of course, that's really the journey then to sacrifice himself for his son and Return of the Jedi. Guys, the Star Wars trilogy is really good. The original Star Wars trilogy is really solid stuff. I don't know, this hot take, man, but that's really good stuff.
Yeah.
But
so it turns out Vader is looking for a particular person.
He's looking for who we'll later know is Tyler Lucian. Great name.
No relation to the Lucian in Andor.
No, completely different. But this guy is a rebel deserter. This comic has so many things I have questions about. What does Vader want from this guy? So let's just track Vader's logic in this comic. He's looking for this rebel deserter because that guy can give him information about what information could this guy have about the rebels that Vader would need?
Vader, and we're skipping to the end of the issue here, but we find out that Vader is looking for the name of the rebel pilot who blew up the Death Star.
That's right. He doesn't know it's Luke Skywalker.
Correct. And he suspects that pilot is the same person who he had the psychic confrontation with outside of the wheel, but he doesn't know that for sure. And he also still doesn't know who that person is.
And that would all make sense if it was eventually building to the reveal that it's his son, but they obviously don't know that. So
right. So now he's just kind of on an evil kick of, I need to find this asshole who beat me twice.
Right, yeah. Now it's personal.
So he's gotten the name Tyler Lucian out of this spy he's just tortured.
Mhm.
But we cross cut to somewhere else as we get another speech bubble
It's
outside of
another
a Star Destroyer and then outside of a huge building.
And it's another like desolate backwater planet cantina because that's all that exists in Star Wars apparently.
Yeah, but this is a pretty big cantina, and this is where somebody would know the name Tyler Lucian. And we cut to a Middle Eastern stereotype and a guy in a cloak.
This guy is wandered off the set of Lawrence of Arabia. No, this is really like and then we get, oh boy, let's talk about these aliens in the foreground on this panel here because Infantino is having a time, folks.
Look, one of them is an established Star Wars alien. He's a Godel. We saw him in the cantina in
Yes.
A New Hope.
And one of them is a guest star. Actually, no, I was going to say is the alien from How to Serve Man, the Twilight Zone. That's 100% what this guy looks like.
Yep, 100%.
No.
Yeah, he's just a guy with a big blue butt for a head.
Yep.
I don't know how else
I'm
to say
sorry,
it.
he's a butthead. He's a literal butthead.
Especially that first top left panel. It's just like
I know,
looking
yeah,
at the
yeah.
back of his head, and it's just a butt.
Behind. Yeah, that's as formed a butt as Valance is on the front of the cover. But yeah, so this is Valance here looking for. So Valance is also looking for this guy.
Yes, we find out that we're looking for Tyler Lucian and this mysterious cloaked figure who we don't know is Valance yet, and I don't know why they're hiding that fact in this first couple of pages.
He's on the cover. I will say I was not too thrown by who this might be.
Yeah, as soon as his hood comes back and we see in profile the white streak in his hair, like, oh, so it's Valance. Why are we being subtle about this?
Well, he turns and facalms Butthead.
Right, because what happens is Middle Eastern stereotype is trying to pull a gun from underneath the bar as he's talking to Valance. Valance punches his hand through the bar to grab the hand that's grabbing the gun, which is pretty cool.
Well, my favorite moment is when he turns to shoot the Butthead alien, and he still has the one hand in the bar.
Yeah.
That's great.
That feels like a very like Indiana Jonesy type of thing where it's just like, oh, one hand's busy doing something, and he's got to use his spare hand to like fend off the bad guys.
Well, definitely. I mean, the whole thing of the backwater canteen and stuff like that, it definitely leans into the Western aesthetics of Star Wars and the gunslinger type of thing, Valance here. And then when we turn the next page, he's just taking a glancing blaster round to the face so that he can once again reveal his cybernetic face.
Which also, at some point between issues, he went in to see his flesh guy again.
Again? I love that every issue has to have him with a fully restored face that then gets torn apart again. Like, it has to happen.
Yeah. So Valance is interrogating this barkeep. Merle is his name. And presumably he's crushing his hand under the bar.
Mm-hmm.
But Merle gets a look at his face and it's like, you're nothing. You're nothing sentient. You can't be
And just once again, love the smoke coming off of his face where he took the I mean, apparently whatever's going on here, whatever the cybernetic stuff in his face is good enough. It can take the blaster fire. The only thing damaged really is the face is gone, but his face is still totally functional.
At a certain point, just like get a hard mask or something. Like make it creepy. Lean into it.
Yes, man, that would further add to your intimidation factor as a bounty hunter, I would think.
I mean, Boba Fett rocks the mask all the time.
God, that's his thing, man. Yeah. I mean, I love Valance, but Valance wishes he was Boba Fett.
Oh yeah, 100%.
But then we go to this next panel where I understand like it's mostly shadow, but it seems like his face is intact to me.
Yeah, I mean the robot half is in shadow, so I don't know.
But the eye is distinctly human, and then when we see it, it's absolutely a glowing red robot eye later. So,
look, coloring issues are always going to be the spoiler where plot is concerned.
So basically, Valance's plan here is like, I'm just gonna kind of casually act like, oh no, what happened in there?
Yeah,
That's
because the
crazy.
stormtroopers stop him on the street and say, "One moment, citizen. We've heard
Yeah.
reports of a disturbance at Merle's,
By the
which
way,
you seem to be in a hurry to leave."
that one moment citizen, nice cameo from RoboCop.
Yeah,
One
one
moment
moment,
citizen.
citizen.
Yeah. And then he turns around and something I don't think I've ever seen in Star Wars is somebody hand over a driver's license.
He's got his paperwork in order. We can respect that. We're Valance.
I mean, it is, yeah, papers, please. Here he is going like, look, I'm a bounty hunter, Loco 405, and yeah, I've paid my dues. I'm in good standing with the union.
This actually does bring up something that I think would be a pretty common problem in the Star Wars universe, and that's like a licensed bounty hunter who's like well enough known. He could
Yeah,
just be out at a bar and somebody there could freak out thinking the bounty hunter is after them.
it's true, and that's kind of what he's trying to play. And for the most part, it goes pretty well, right up until, hey, why are you wearing that cloak?
The cloak in Star Wars is the trench coat and fedora to the Marvel universe at large. Of just like,
Yeah,
it's a disguise that works every time, right up until it works 0 times.
yeah, it's just like, wait a minute, I bet you're hiding something under that cloak. Ah, a Borg!
A miserable cyborg trying to pass. Yikes.
Well, okay, so I have a lot of questions about this. Now, we know the sort of general dismissive attitude of droids for the most part in the world of Star Wars. The cyborgs are new to us, at least at this point in chronology of the franchise.
Sure.
So, this idea of Borgs, but it's like, this guy is a licensed bounty hunter, and you're telling me in the world of Star Wars, if I pull back a cloak and a guy has like a half robot face, that's the most unsettling thing I can see? Because there's a lot of weird shit running around the Star Wars universe.
There's some big implications in this first chunk. And again, this is before we've gotten to Empire Strikes Back, so there's a lot more like cyborg stuff in that movie, honestly.
God, yeah. I mean, we'll talk about one Lobot, but
Lobot, and then like Luke getting his robot hand at the end,
Robot,
and like,
and yeah,
so like it makes it feel a lot more commonplace than
Yeah.
this initial run of comics has, in which it is treated as this like thing to be derogatory over, to be derided about, that it is extremely rare when
it's
in the-
unnatural too, right?
Yeah.
Like the combination of human and technology.
yeah. And the Star Wars universe at large that we know, that's not the case.
Right. So that's the thing but I'm just saying, like, just in general, like, if you're out patrolling these planets, you're gonna see all kinds of shit. But this guy flips out, and all of a sudden, whatever legality this guy had is, because it's just like, we can't let something like him get away with killing normal organics, even if he's got the proper paperwork. No, I am taking a stand here.
Thankfully, this Stormtrooper's racism gives Valance all the justification he needs to just start murdering.
Yep. I do like, thank you, Trooper. Until now, I don't think I was certain about my course of action, but it's murder. Pew, pew, pew. And I do stand by. Why doesn't he just shoot lasers out of his hand all the time? That seems to be the most effective thing.
Also, when did his hand get stripped of flesh? Because in the previous few panels, it looked normal.
Yep.
We're not going to worry about it. But all we know is in this last panel here, he says, "Now I'm committed. I'm in a race against Darth Vader, and Tyler Lucian is the prize." Why did he say he's in a race against Darth Vader out loud, but only think Tyler Lucian is the prize to himself?
This is the beginning of a lot of baffling questions about why he says things out loud in this issue.
Yes.
There's
yes,
a
it
lot
is.
of Valance saying thoughts out loud. But in this
Val-
case, yeah, I'm in a now I'm in a committed race against Darth Vader, but I better keep the Tyler Lucian thing down.
The real dark encounter here is not between Valance, the bounty hunter, and Darth Vader, the Lord of the Sith. The real dark encounter here is between Valance's inner and outer monologues.
Yeah, it really is. I just trying to imagine this on film and just having a guy going, now that I see what is before me, it's just like, good Lord, later
Yeah.
when we're on the planet. Speaking of that planet, here we go. Let's go to a new Star Wars planet. Ruby
Yeah.
Flame Lake,
Is
the
Ruby Flame
popular.
Lake. I think
I don't
this
have
is
to.
actually supposed to be on the same planet as Valance is on,
I Yes, I think you're right.
because it's on Centauri's.
Yes, yes, it is. Then they say that later. So this is, yes, Ruby Flame Lake, and in the days of the Old Republic, as we were told here, it was a splendid, popular resort attracting visitors by the thousands to Centaurus from throughout the mid systems. But the Empire has been drilling into the lava beds and basically poisoned the water, right?
So it describes this place where it's like, okay, there's this big resort like lake with all these little like spire like houses out on docks along the lake, and the lake used to be just like mildly kept at a nice warm temperature by
Yeah,
low lava bed. This sounds great. And of
yeah.
course, in classic fashion, the Empire
Mhm.
is like, but what if we just drilled out all that lava and dumped all of our waste into the lake?
I actually really like that. I like the just everyday shittiness of the Empire's like
Yeah.
decisions like this, or policies and things like that, where it's like, yeah, man, we're just gonna get ours at the cost of the environment. It doesn't matter.
You know what this is? This
Hmm.
is the Empire is the Nestle Corporation in Fiji.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely.
For our listeners who may not know, look up Nestle and what they've done to Fiji in terms of, like, all those Fiji water bottles that everyone
Hmm.
liked for so long. Well, they
Hmm.
had a tremendous cost to the environment.
I was gonna say, look up what Nestle did to Fiji. Spoiler, not great.
Yeah, not great. Something similar to what we're seeing here with a blood red lake.
Yes, yeah, absolutely. It also made me think of the fracking issues and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, which is also, yeah, but just the sort of thing. And there's a lone figure here standing on this dock, just looking for the will to kill himself. Great.
Boy, yeah, midway through this issue, and we leap into a man summoning the courage to end himself.
Yeah,
Yikes.
yeah. As he's saying, the pollutants in there can dissolve metal in hours. Flesh would surely take only minutes. One more step is all it would take. An easy plunge into those blood red waters. And you're just like, I got kids here, man. I got
Yeah,
kids here.
this
Jeez.
is ostensibly a children's book.
Yeah, I mean, and oftentimes we complain about it being written too much for children specifically with some of its goofiness. And then here you're like, all right, maybe pull back, Star Wars comic. Jeez.
At some point, someone writing this book was just like, that Alan Moore guy's got some things going on in his new book. I think I'm going to put some Black Freighter in my Star Wars.
Yeah, man. Jeez. Two great tastes that don't go great together in this case. Jeez.
Actually, I think
Uh,
Watchmen was after this.
it definitely was. There was Watchmen was like 87 maybe, or maybe 80. It's in the mid to late 80s. Um
86, 87, yeah.
yeah, 86 to 87. So, yeah, we're still a few years out from that. Star Wars is going for it though, man. They're seeing the
Yeah.
starting point of the darker edge of comics, man. Jeez.
Okay,
So
and
this
this is
guy,
also where we get into a little bit of some Infantino same face and same character problems,
yeah,
because this just looks like
yeah,
Luke Skywalker, right?
100%. It looks like dirty Luke Skywalker. Luke Skywalker on a bender is what Tyler Lucian looks like.
Yeah, because he's, again, just rambling out loud. Nobody has interiority in this book. They're just all
No.
saying everything out loud.
So this guy's backstory is he just took off when the Death Star showed up on Yavin.
Which I think is actually a pretty compelling backstory about, like, okay, here's the guy who just, like, the Death Star showed up, everyone was gearing up, they are throwing this fool's hope at the Death Star, knowing they could take it down, and one guy was just like, no.
I just love the idea of somebody turning and going, Tyler, do you want to grab the Tyler? Tyler? And there he goes.
Only after I'd stolen the supply ship, raced away, then I heard on the transceiver about him, the T-65 pilot who shut down his computer and put a torpedo into the Death Star exhaust port unassisted, a mere farm boy from Tatooine, Luke Skywalker. He is saying out loud to no one.
He's really lost it. Yeah, so he's it's all so Valance can hear him, right?
Yeah, because when the
Which is
Green
great.
Goblin shows up behind him,
Spider-Man.
he's wearing this purple cloak with like this pointy hood that really looks like Green
Absolutely.
Goblin.
It really does look like Green Goblin. So yeah, so basically this idea is like this guy took off in a moment of cowardice out of fear, and then whatever, but then is particularly more depressed and was like, actually, that was pretty quickly resolved by a guy, and now I look like a complete fool.
He couldn't have just turned around because like that all took like an hour.
Yeah. No, he's like, never mind. I've committed to this. My life of cowardice that needs to be ended now.
Because like it's not, the rebellion isn't the Empire. They wouldn't execute this guy for being scared and running away.
The thing that got me when they talk about a rebel deserter, I'm like, a rebel deserter? Those two words don't go together. Like, I
I
mean,
mean,
they
they
kind of do,
can.
but they can, but it's not. Yeah, it's not a death penalty for deserting. It's not a. The rebellion is interesting in Star Wars because the rebellion feels very militaristic in and of itself. So it does feel like what I'm saying is like you're not under like you're under contract to the army or whatever, right? Like conceivably in some capacity.
Well,
There's some sort of
and they
reality there.
play a little bit with this in Rebels specifically,
Yeah.
where they like, okay, the rebellion that they're trying to build does have to have a code and a command structure, and like for this to work, we need the trappings of a more imperialistic military, and that
Right.
sucks because we are at our core a something that is rebelling against the system and the status quo.
Right. But if we don't, it's going to be chaos because that's what it was. Especially the more you get into the history of the rebellion, it's like, well, it was just a bunch of people like bombing shit at one point, and that really wasn't going to get anywhere.
Well, and that's what makes characters like Saw Gerrera so compelling, right?
Right.
It's just like he's a guy who never lets go of the anarchist mentality of just like, no,
Right.
you hit them wherever it's going to hurt the most. It doesn't matter what it actually does to
Right.
society at large.
Right. Exactly. And so that's kind of interesting. But yeah, it definitely takes into an interesting idea of the rebel deserter
But yeah,
and this guy.
this Tyler specifically isn't a traitor. He's just a deserter. He ran away. So why he would need
Right.
to be in hiding on this little backwater planet?
Yeah.
Nah, I don't know.
I don't know either. And Valance has shown up once again. Why is Valance?
Okay,
Why is Valance
so
here?
Valance is here again, working our way back from the end of this book.
Yeah.
Valance is here also looking for anyone who knows the name Luke Skywalker,
Yeah.
just so he can kill them to stop Darth Vader from learning the name Luke
Yeah.
Skywalker.
This is the thing that's crazy about both of their. So Vader is playing a hunch that there's a guy who might know Luke Skywalker, and also it's pretty interesting that this guy knows Luke Skywalker because he literally left before and then only heard about Luke Skywalker, implying somebody else told him about Luke Skywalker.
Presumably he got it. I mean, he says as much. He got it over like his transceiver on the ship he stole.
Okay, so that's the thing. So
But apparently somebody back on Yavin 4 was just like, you heard it here first, folks. Luke Skywalker has blown up the Death Star.
that's right. I don't know where Luke Skywalker with a torpedo down a ventilation shaft. In my life, I have never seen anything like this.
Such a reckless disregard.
Oh, this cannot be legal. Yeah. But
Luke with the folding chair down from the ropes.
but I just like Vader is. This is a real stab in the dark for Vader that this guy would know who Luke Skywalker. It's just like that's the only way.
But okay, here's where it all, like the hinge point on this is this middle center panel on the left where Valance is confronting Tyler and saying,
Yeah.
so you do know his name, Lucian, and do you spend every sunset babbling to yourself about it? So the way this has gotten out is that
Yeah.
Tyler went here to get away
Yeah.
from the fact that he ran away from the rebellion. He stands at the edge of this dock every single day, contemplating suicide and babbling about how Luke Skywalker solved all of his problems.
Like, so conceivably, it's gotten out that this guy is just standing there going, "Razum Frazum, Luke Skywalker, Razum Frazum."
No, what's gotten out is that he's talking and saying the name of somebody who blew up the Death Star, and that nobody has actually heard him say the name Luke Skywalker.
It's just like Razum Frazum, guy who blew up Death Star, Razum Frazum. It's such bad writing that once again, Vader somehow heard there is a guy somewhere who is saying the name of the guy who blew up the Death Star, but they don't know the actual name. And then Valance also heard about that, and now it's a race to find this guy.
Why would Vader have gotten this guy's name out of the Rebel spy and not Luke Skywalker?
That's what I'm saying. Is like, take any rebel, because they've made a big deal in the some of the other issues we read that, like, everybody knows Luke Skywalker. He's the hero of the rebellion. He's the guy now. You would think it shouldn't be hard to know the name Luke Skywalker. This shouldn't be a big hunt for Vader.
In the more recent Marvel comics, they made a deal about how, like, okay, Vader is hunting this guy and trying to figure out.
Right.
He really quickly gets the name Skywalker.
Yeah.
And that makes him go, that can't be right. And then he has to, like, do a bunch of bullshit to, like, double check his work, basically.
That's it. Exactly. He's figuring out, is this my son? Not, what's that guy's name? Because that doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, Jesus
Logical
Christ.
inconsistencies aside.
Yeah.
Valance is confronting Tyler here at the end of this doc, saying Merle's not going to be helping anymore. No one's going to be helping anymore. Up until recently, I was in favor of the Empire. I would honestly say that I'm not really on anybody's side, but I still got to kill you.
Lucian also says that Alliance spies are searching for him. So once again, they're like, hey, where'd that guy go? And so they're sending people out. That's that thing, once again, where it's like, is there punishment for leaving the rebellion? Do they just want the ship back? I don't know.
Yeah, the way Star Wars can at times, it goes back and forth, right? Sometimes they treat the rebellion as this, like, loose coalition of freedom fighters and, let's be honest, terrorists from a certain point of view. Fighting against the Galactic Empire. Other times they treat it as they are a distinct military faction, like France against Germany in World War I or something.
Right. Yeah.
So, depends who you ask.
Yes, yeah. But of course, Valance is here to kill this guy, right?
Yeah. I mean, he says, you're a pitiful man, Tyler Lucian. Unfortunately, I'm not known for my pity. As he holds up his gun, the implication is he's going to kill him.
He's had his gun on him this whole time as they talk back and forth, though. That's the thing where it's like, if this guy is such a merciless killer, why doesn't he just shoot him right into that lake of, corrosive liquid?
Also, if this guy's been contemplating ending his own life for so long, why is he fighting so hard to save his own life when Valance corners him?
That's it exactly. He goes, look, man, I was for the rebellion, but, like, if it means I get to live, I'll spill all my secrets to the Empire.
Look, immediately he feels such guilt about abandoning the rebellion, but he's absolutely willing to turn heel if it means saving his own life.
And then we turn the page. Incoming Darth Vader's TIE fighter, which I believe is an interceptor. Is that correct?
That's the TIE Advanced. No, the Interceptor is the one with the pointy things on the wings that are pointing forward.
So here comes Darth Vader. And once again, Valance's whole point is to kill this guy so Darth Vader doesn't get information. He sees Darth Vader and then wouldn't just be like, there's Darth Vader. All right, kapow, and we're done. Instead,
well, I mean, the comic says it is only a moment's distraction.
That's what it says, but once again, it's tough.
A moment is far more than Tyler Lucian thought he had. So, using his flash-like super speed, he teleports from the end of this dock past Valance and inside the building.
That's exactly what I'm talking about. When they claim it's a moment, and then suddenly he's past him. It's too late. He's inside the tower. You're a fool, Valance, he says aloud to himself.
Right. Valance speaking to himself says, "Too
And
late.
then
He's inside the tower. You're a fool."
and then continues to say the following as he's mid-run. And now you're going to die for it. But then you've suspected that for some time, ever since you let Luke Skywalker and C-3PO get away alive back on Junction. He says aloud as he's in the middle of what I can only describe as some sort of Sasquatch run. Look at what is this
And
run?
he is slightly out of focus, so it tracks.
Yeah.
You know what Valance is doing here? He is being his own angry Claremontian narrator.
He definitely is. Yeah. Yeah, it does have that vibe to it.
Because there's a thing Claremont did in a lot of his X-Men comics at times, where his narrator would be like almost antagonistic towards the characters, being like, "Cyclops, you idiot. You think everything's going well, but your gal Jean is in for it now."
Yes, it is very much like Chris Claremont himself is going, fucking Wolverine, man. What are you even trying to do right now?
Which can thematically work as like
Well,
fate
it really
itself
works.
conspiring against these characters.
It really works in those comics. We've talked about this. Like, Claremont did stuff that no one else has been able to pull off. And it's all just Claremont, look, no offense to Archie Goodwin, but Claremont's maybe a better writer. I know. Once again, another hot take. Meanwhile, though, while this is happening, time to cut to one of our beloved interludes.
Can we just skip past these 2 pages? Because like it's really just a lot of business with 3PO worrying about R2, but then R2's fine.
Yeah, because it's basically like 3PO going like, when are they going to get R2 out of surgery, basically? And then R2 rolls up, and I love when he's like, you and your practical jokes are, yeah. Well, R2 was always pulling pranks on set. He was the Clooney of Star Wars.
Yeah. Well, unfortunately, in his later days, he went a little too far. Once R2 started going method and like leaving dead mouse droids in people's trailers, it's just went too far.
But I just want to talk about the second to last panel on this page, which is the last 3PO R2 panel, and talk about what is happening here, because the floor is clearly defined.
Sure.
Where R2 is standing on it.
Mm-hmm.
I don't think 3PO is kneeling, because it doesn't look like he is. It appears his legs have buried themselves into the floor.
Oh, see, I thought he got that surgery that Hank Hill's dad had, where they attached. He just attached his feet to his knees.
That man gave his shins for our country. All right, Cotton Hill gave his shins for this country. That's no shins. But
yeah, no, it visually doesn't make sense. Also, why would R2's like projection beam be coming out of his mid torso?
I have no idea. I don't know what that's even indicating.
It's a fwee boop. Yeah, I don't know.
Well, R2 and his practical jokes, his beloved practical jokes.
The last time I saw R2 doing a practical joke, it was to trick several battle droids into burning to death.
Yeah, that was classic. That was hilarious. That was good stuff. He could never get past that. And so then we cut to Luke Skywalker just giving it to Dodonna here, man.
Yeah.
How could you do it, Dodonna? Let the princess run off on a mission alone. You know how women drivers be.
Jesus.
Last we saw Dodonna had tried to talk Leia out of going to search for Luke, right?
Right, but then she found him, brought him back, and now we're being told about another extant mission in which Leia has been sent away from Yavin 4, which they're still on, by the way.
I know, they keep talking about how we have to get out of here, like, right now. And they seem to also be in no hurry to leave.
Yeah. But they're talking about how Leia is like a symbol to the rebellion, and whatever mission the Dodonna sent her on, they need a symbol to do it.
Mm-hmm. And then
also,
he's just like,
Luke's just bored, so we need to find him a mission too.
Yeah, he's like, don't worry, man. Leia will be all right, and let's get you something to do to take your mind off it. And then my favorite caption ever, here, an interlude ends.
As light years away, above the poisoned waters of Ruby Fame Lake on Centaurus, a confrontation begins.
And then classic Darth Vader, so famous for reasoning with people and trying to what is this pose on Vader? The one hand on his hip and the other one going, "Hey pal, you, excuse me. I need to talk to the manager."
This is Vader's Karen pose.
It really is. He looks like he's asking to speak to your manager. "Excuse me, over here. Can I get some service?"
The man in the tower has a name I require, Bounty Chaser. The only profit for you will be in letting me pass to get it.
They're on a rickety, wooden dock. The Vader I know would just fucking kill Valance and go get him. He wouldn't be like, "Hey, whoa, buddy. Let's talk it out. Let me pass, all right?"
Yeah, okay. Well, again, characterization of Vader just out the window right now.
Yep. Oh, gone. Yeah, this has no resemblance to the Vader I know.
What gets me is Valance's rejoinder here when it says, "Today, Lord of the Sith, I'm not after profit." How the fuck does he know he's a Lord of the Sith?
I don't know. Why not? Why not? You Sith son of a bitch.
All right. And now we're going to have an entire page of Vader Valance repartee, and it's just painful.
You would think we were promised a fight, which we will get, but first they're just going to jaw at each other for a while. And he's just talking about you may know a name, but I'm going to kill you, Vader. And Vader's like, "No."
I actually do love the top of this page here when Vader's like, Valance is like, "I'm just going to shoot you and we're going to be done with this." And Vader's like, "Oh yeah, you're going to shoot me? Then why haven't you shot me yet?"
Yeah, that's right. And then he hits him with "That gun seems awful heavy." And he's like, "Why it is?"
Is this the first time of us seeing Vader try to use the Jedi mind trick?
I think so, yeah. It's got to be. He's just is choking people out in New Hope. He never does anything with the mental faculty thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then I like this moment of Vader just being once again, when this is Vader's "No thing. You think that blaster's going to do anything when I've got the Force, baby?"
And Valance's like, "Joke's on you, hand blaster."
He loves that hand blaster. And then I do kind of like when we turn the page here, is Vader on fire?
Vader's a little bit on fire.
It looks like his cape is on fire.
Yeah, he's at least smoking. Because, yeah, he took a shot from Valance's hand blaster, which we've seen, destroy walls, and we'll see it destroy a dock at the bottom of this page. And he just took it.
He just took it, man, which is awesome. And he says it's no small thing. I don't love him calling himself in the third person here.
Yeah.
It's no small thing to bring Darth Vader to his knee. On some worlds, it might be the stuff of legend, but it's not enough.
Slaying you will be a waste. A bounty hunter with your particular abilities could serve me well.
But luckily I have a call out to this guy named Fett. He seems pretty badass.
I'm more of a Dengar kind of guy, but he seems all right.
I'm weirded out by the diaper on the head look, though. That's a little weird to me.
I do like Valance's comeback here. It says, "A useful freak, not unlike your own position in the Empire."
That's the closest we get to them calling each other the same thing.
Yeah.
And then the thinnest lightsaber blade ever depicted, Varamps from Vader's hilt.
I mean, is there a hilt there? I don't know. It looks like he's just coming out of his palm almost.
It looks like he's about to do a presentation, and this is the laser pointer for his PowerPoint. Our profits are going up.
As iconic as Vader's lightsaber would eventually become, I have two versions of it in my home of just with the black, ribbed bits on the hilt and everything. It's just weird to see him with a laser pointer.
Yeah, exactly. I know. Yeah, they really. Once again, they're doing a lot here to rob how badass Vader is. Yes, I have a whole shelf of Vader toys, and this is none from this comic. I'll say that. And then meanwhile, here's strung out Luke Skywalker looking from above. Can't get me. I'm in the tower.
And Valance has this whole soliloquy here of just like, you're after this boy and his droid that I used to be after, but they're a piece of hope, and even if that hope is small, so was the hope of destroying the Death Star.
And keep in mind, all of this is happening conceivably mid-fight. Like, they've both drawn down on each other, but he's still saying like this whole monologue before he
And
fracks the dock open here.
yeah, he fracks the dock, but that doesn't fucking stop Vader as he just straight up Donovans across this bridge.
You have never seen a more graceful Darth Vader than this. Look at that.
I don't know if I've ever seen Darth Vader with like the multiple after images moving.
I know, because you don't think of him moving like that. I never think of like mid-air or super fast Darth Vader.
Yeah,
He's
no.
sort of the stalking figure. Once again, that adds to the intimidation. Is like, he doesn't need to pick up speed. He's just going to get you.
No, he's Mike Myers, he's Jason
Yeah.
Voorhees, he's just like, he's slowly plodding after you, and eventually
Yeah.
you're gonna die.
And that's the thing that makes him scary. He's just this oncoming force.
Yeah.
And that's cool as hell.
And also seeing Vader like bicycle kick Valance.
I know.
Weird.
You also don't think of him throwing a kick at all. Like, you can't think of anything where Vader kicks somebody. Take that.
I do love
Why
the
would he
middle
need
panels
to?
here where Valance's fist like hits Vader's mask and it just goes crong.
That is cool. That is cool. And then Vader shracks him with his lightsaber, and it looks like that's curtains for Valance because he has a smoking pink crater in his chest.
The combat that follows is fierce and brief.
Yeah. Thank God we don't see it.
Well, I mean, we do see it. It's just literally the one swipe of the lightsaber.
Yeah. It's cool. I mean, that is cool. And then, of course, he's like, nope, got your leg.
I love Vader in this bottom left panel, though. Like at the base of the tower, just going, Tyler Lucian, get down here.
I just killed this son of a bitch. Now get down here, man.
You heard me.
Don't make me come up there.
I will turn this planet around.
Hey, man, we knew he was somebody's dad with this energy.
Yeah.
But then, of course, the cybernetic hand clamps like a vice, and Vader's like, wah!
Lucian is still up in the tower as, Valance is just like, no, must stop Darth Vader with dying breath.
Yeah. And I do like Vader going, still alive? Still fighting? Well, I could almost admire you, Valance, but I don't.
Also, this is an incredible amount of mercy here in this top left panel from Vader when he says, just give up, join me. The medics on my cruiser can still probably save you.
That's right, buddy. But I do kind of like the brief moment of like, wow, you're still going? Respect, game recognized game.
Well, and we'll get some of that in later Vader stuff where it's like when he's starting to build the Inquisitors and whatnot, where it's just like, okay, these are a bunch of sanctimonious badasses that I'm going to wrangle into being something we can use to hunt down the remaining Jedi.
Right. Well, and I do sort of like where it's just like, hey, man, the Empire could use a guy like you. That's pretty cool.
Right.
That's kind of fun.
But also, again, modern Vader is just going to murk this guy and move on.
100%. Well, modern Vader, I feel like would have taken his head off rather than gone for the chest shot anyway with the lightsaber. But
yeah.
And then he's like, no. And I love that Vader shrug. Just imagine Darth Vader shrugging. All right, well, so be it. Yeah, shrugs, kicks, and then he's once again way too much chit chat for Vader for me.
Oh yeah, Vader having a whole panel of dialogue bubbles is upsetting on its own.
And he's also just going like, what are you going to do? I'm going to get that name one way or another, even if I don't get it from this guy. What do you think you're going to accomplish here, buddy?
And Valance gives his reasoning here. He's looking to just delay Vader as much as possible because he knows Luke Skywalker is some kind of like messianic hope for cyborg peace in the galaxy.
It so doesn't work for me. It's happened way too fast. His hard shift from I need to kill Luke Skywalker because he's an abomination to I am now like worshiping him like a deity.
Yeah, yeah. And so Valance's whole plan here is just like, I need to delay Darth Vader as long as possible because the more time Luke Skywalker has, the more
Yeah.
time he will have to become someone who can overcome Darth Vader.
That's it exactly. And he's like so certain where it's just like, give him time and he'll be more powerful than you, Vader. You're going down.
Someday he'll be your equal or your better.
And I'm just like, what has he seen to make him think that?
A friendship between a man and a droid.
Yeah, I know that's basically all he saw. And he's just like, yeah, man, but I heard he blew up the Death Star, and I saw he was nice to droids, so there's just no way you can stop him.
But don't forget that that was also his motivation for his endless quest to kill
Yeah.
Luke Skywalker. So it's the same motivation. It just has flipped meanings
This
in
doesn't
one
work at
issue.
all.
Yeah.
I see what he's trying to do, but it doesn't work at all. It's not good, you guys. And so then he just kicks.
Well, Valance is about to get lightsabered again because his arm won't let go of Vader's foot. And instead, Valance rolls off the dock and attempts to drag Darth Vader down with him.
That's what it is, where he's just like, yeah, we're going to go out together, man. And then when we go to the next page, Vader's fingers digging into the wood of the dock.
I mean, I didn't think about it at the time because in my head, I'm like, yeah, Vader has robot arms. Of course they'd be able to dig into the wood. But the writers here didn't know that.
No, and those are clearly like organic hands. Look at that hand.
Well, it's like, yeah, it's a comic book hand that is just painted to be a glove. Yeah.
Right, yeah, exactly. And he's like, oh, hold on. But then what is he?
Well, Darth Vader begins to feel just how heavy a dying man, half human, half machine can be. And
I think he might be aware of that because he is one, but that's fine.
So Valance technically never lets go of Vader, and Vader has to resort to just chopping off the robot arm.
Yeah, that's kind of cool. And so ends Valance the Hunter.
Well,
yeah, no, I mean, it's a comic book.
But his last words still echo in the mind of Tyler Lucian.
And then this is the most insane thing in the whole comic, which is the victory for Tyler Lucian is he is finally able to kill himself. What? What?
This is why the message of this particular issue gets so garbled in this last panel here, because Lucian is driven to suicide by the words of eventual glimmers of hope presented by Valance that again is confused by all of his backstory.
Weird. Wouldn't you think that the better thing would be, inspired by this, he uses the time to escape and return to the Rebel Alliance?
Or one last valiant attempt to take down Darth Vader, raging against the twilight of his life. Yeah, I don't know.
Yeah, anything. Other than, kill himself.
But no, we literally just get a panel of just like a swoop line into the lake.
And Vader's like, oh, damn.
For a time, the only sound on Ruby Flame Lake is the steady, labored rasp of the Dark Lord's breath mask. Then he turns and makes his way back to the orbiting cruiser.
And then, oh boy, the final punchline is these guys going, oh man, so can't wait to get out of this armor. I'll tell you what, it reeks in here.
We cut to 2 stormtroopers just being like, oh, so glad to be off duty. Can't wait to get out of this armor.
Hey man, everybody's working for the weekend, am I right?
But then Vader, overhearing this, just pulls a total dick move and says, Wormus, get underway. I'll supply you with coordinates, and until I decree otherwise, we are on alert status. Even off-duty personnel will remain in full armor.
Once again, Vader just hates joy in all of its forms, and is just like, oh, those guys are excited to be off. Guess what? Overtime!
Because the stormtrooper in the top right panel here has this line that says, right? I can't wait to shed this armor. Being in it so long, I feel like a blasted Borg or worse. The implication is that he's like offhandedly referring to Darth Vader, kind of?
Yeah, and Vader's like, I heard that shit. Make sure they work twice as hard.
Yeah, again, it seems to imply that the writers here know something about Darth Vader that we don't. And the
Yeah.
fact of the matter is, like, I don't think they did, but they were just making a shot in the dark about, like, okay, why would Vader be wearing this armor all the time?
I don't know.
Yeah. All we know is that next issue, it's a princess alone.
Finally, folks, a princess is alone.
Hey, I'll take that over her being with Senator Greyshade any day.
Oh, jeez. Yeah, absolutely. Anything to get us away from that guy's an improvement. Weesh.
Yeah. But yeah, that was issue number 29. The last we'll see of Valance for maybe a little while because we are barreling towards Empire Strikes Back at this point.
You mean forever? Because he's definitely dead.
Yeah, sure, okay.
Yeah.
Look, he's too cool of a character design to stay dead forever.
100%. Yeah, I mean, in fact, I mean, obviously, I know it's a new continuity, but like, I know he's back in the comics now, of course.
Yeah, that Bounty Hunter book, actually, I'm catching up on. Surprisingly good.
I haven't read it. I read the Target Vader miniseries that brought him back.
Yeah, I would say because he's not super the main character of the Bounty Hunters book, because the Bounty Hunters book kind of splits up between a bunch of different bounty hunters,
Right.
It's like an original like crime Star Wars story for the most part that doesn't super cross over with like our main lead characters. So if you're into more like in the weeds Star Wars storytelling, that's definitely a cool book to check out.
Especially if it's about the crime side of it, which is my jam.
Yeah, absolutely.
So yeah, well there it is, folks. That's we'll see what Princess Leia is up to alone next week on the show. But
I think we might find that she has her work cut out for her in trying to jumpstart something in the rebellion. We'll get there.
Wouldn't you know it? But yeah, until then, though, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe if you're watching us on YouTube, or subscribe on whatever podcatching software you use, and rate and review us on there as well. And we have another way to support us. The best way to support us, actually, is to go to our Podbean patron page, which is patron.podbean.com/punchup. There you can support the show as well as get cool exclusive bonus content from all the Punch Up Entertainment podcast shows.
Yeah, and if you're watching us over on YouTube, yeah, like, comment, and subscribe. Let us know in the comments below how much Vader dialogue is too much dialogue. Like, okay, we can all accept that he says, don't choke on your aspirations. We can all say that maybe he needs to do a quippy little one-liner as he's choking somebody out. Is that where we draw the line? Can he have a monologue? Can that even work? I don't know.
I think it depends. I think to Luke he can say more, because obviously that's a different thing. But to his, prey, I feel like, personally, keep it pretty brief.
Yeah, well, let us know in the comments below what you think.
Indeed. But yeah, I think that's going to do it for this week's episode.
Indeed. I have been Mike Ergoni.
I'm John Campbell.
And remember, may the panel be with you.